the aftermath of the largest ever attack on the Lviv region, new protests in Georgia, and whether Ukraine will continue to receive support after the elections in the Czech Republic. I'll tell you about this and more coming up. Hello, I'm Irina Kondrachuk, and you're watching TSN Online. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to comment on what you found most interesting. Let's get started. Last night, Russia launched a combined strike on regions of Ukraine. A total of 54 missiles were launched. There were hits from both missiles and drones, according to the Air Force. In particular, the occupiers used 496 attack UAVs, 250 of which were Shaheds that flew in from different directions in several waves, starting in the evening. After the aerial terror, the enemy intensified the attack with air, sea, and ground-launched missiles, firing 42 Kh-101 and Iskander-K cruise missiles, 9 Caliber missiles, and 2 Kinjal aeroballistic missiles. Direct hits from 8 missiles and 57 attack UAVs were recorded at 20 locations. Debris fell at 6 more sites. The main strike was directed at the Lviv region. And this is the most massive combined attack on this region since the start of the full-scale invasion. Russia attacked the region with Shahed drones and cruise missiles. One of the projectiles hit a residential building in the village of Lupaivka. An entire family was killed. 4 people, including a 15-year-old girl. TSN correspondent Marichka Kuzik will tell you more about the consequences. Only bricks remain of the house. It was completely demolished down to the foundation. It was a residential house in the village of Lupaivka, right at the exit from Lviv. An entire family died here in an instant under the rubble. 3 adults and a 15-year-old girl. Rescuers managed to pull another family member out alive. He is currently in the hospital. 2 other residents of neighboring houses were also hospitalized. Our units managed to save 4 people. We evacuated people from the upper floors and also had to rescue people from under the rubble caused by this attack. Last night, the Lviv region came under fire. It was the most powerful shelling since the beginning of the war. The Russians launched dozens of Shaheds and missiles. Some were shot down by air defense forces, but a few still made it through. They say it was a hellish night. I said, let's get out because we have hay in the attic. What if shrapnel hits, then what? And what will happen to us? We run out here and there's a rain of glass shards. It was loud, so frightening. It was scary, though I was always prepared for it. I told my brother it was just a matter of time. It could hit here. The blast wave rolled further on. Dozens of houses with shattered windows, destroyed roofs and doors. In the morning, people tape up their windows with plastic film to at least somewhat protect their homes. All the windows are damaged, and there are no doors left at all. A pile of doors. The guys are already closing up the doors for me. At least they're covering them with tarpaulin. There are a few windows left. Look at the church. Those who have nowhere to live. I've already put up 3 people from Kharkiv region who lived here in a hotel. The rest have relatives and so on. At least for now, no one else has asked for help. At the same time, the Russians also struck industrial and energy facilities in the region. In Lviv, warehouses, garages, a service station, and energy infrastructure facilities were damaged. The industrial park caught fire. This is a civilian facility with no military purpose. Debris also damaged a school and a kindergarten. Due to heavy smoke, residents were asked not to open their windows, and public transport resumed operation only in the morning. Fragments of missiles and drones are still being found in the city and its outskirts. People are asked not to touch them and to immediately inform the police. Marichka Kuzik, Andriy Popovich, Lviv region, TSN 1+1. 1 person was killed and 10 more were injured. Among them, a child. Russian war criminals attacked Zaporizhzhia non-stop for 3 hours with drones and guided aerial bombs. At least 8 strikes have been recorded and dozens of apartment buildings and private houses have been damaged. TSN correspondent Daria Nazarova visited the sites of the strikes and will tell you more in detail. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the first explosion rang out in Zaporizhzhia. The enemy launched Shaheds across the city. One of them got caught in a tree and fell near an apartment building. The explosion destroyed the facade.
The blast wave blew out all the windows in the entranceway.
Near the crater, remnants of peaceful life remain. The shattered belongings of Zaporizhzhia residents. Cars burned down next to the building. I hear a commotion from the neighbors. I go outside, they're on fire, all the windows have been blown out. They say everything in their yard is burning. I looked out, the cars were on fire. The trees were burning, it was all very frightening. We thought it wouldn't affect us. She says she was very worried about the elderly neighbors. Ms. Natalia is one of the victims. She has shrapnel wounds to her head and hematomas. The woman miraculously survived that night. Everything is destroyed. They carried my husband out. He's bedridden. They took him away. The couple's apartment is half ruined. Ms. Lyudmila's neighbor's wall survived, although the apartment was left without windows or doors. The pensioner says she woke up from the explosion and glass immediately started falling everywhere. I was soundly sleeping right here, in this very spot. I always prefer to sleep right up against the solid wall, feeling secure and comfortable. And then, quite suddenly, the massive explosion started. In a moment of pure instinct, I quickly grabbed onto something sturdy nearby and managed to stand up. But tragically, there was already shattered glass scattered all over the floor beneath my bare feet. In the morning, her daughter, son, and friends came to help her get the apartment back in order. We didn't sleep either, because drones were flying over from Borodinska. My mom called. She was crying, very worried. I calmed her down as best I could. We came in the morning. Now, Ms. Lyudmila is recovering from what she's been through and waiting for utility workers to come board up the damaged windows. She doesn't plan to leave her apartment, but her daughter will take her in. And when they come and install them, I don't have any. As a result of the combined attack on the city, at least 10 people were injured. Among them is a 16-year-old teenager. In Zaporizhzhia, more than 18 apartment buildings and 24 private houses were damaged. Due to the shelling, more than 70,000 subscribers were left without electricity. The power has already been restored to the people. Daria Nazarova, Andrei Kupovka. Zaporizhzhia TSN 1+1M. The Russians dropped 3 bombs on the city center of Sloviansk in Donetsk region. 2 bombs hit a 9-story apartment building and another struck an art school. 5 people were injured, including a teenager. The occupiers attacked Druzhkivka with drones and Uragan rockets. There is 1 fatality and 5 injured there. It has been reported that 1 person was killed as a result of drone strikes on the railway station in Shostka, Sumy region. The body of a 71-year-old passenger was found in a train car. 8 injured people are in the hospital. Among them are a ticket clerk and a mother with her 3 sons aged 8, 11, and 14. 2 people are in intensive care. Doctors are fighting for the life of a Kherson resident who was hospitalized this morning after the shelling of the Dnipro district. 4 more city residents were wounded the day before. Children who, together with their pregnant mother, suffered blast injuries in a car remain in a consistently serious condition. The boys, aged 8 and 17, have undergone surgery. Their feet were shattered. In Prekarpatia, the enemy targeted critical infrastructure facilities. 1 person was injured. Homes were also damaged in 2 districts. Large-scale fires broke out in Chernihiv region after the Shahed drone attack. There were strikes on businesses, an energy facility, and later on a gas station. In one of the districts of the regional center, emergency power outages occurred and throughout the entire region. Hourly power outage schedules are in effect. During one of the recent attacks on Chernihiv region, the enemy struck the Slovyansky hotel in Novhorod. It was also called the symbol of Slavic unity. The hotel was built in 2004 specifically for the meeting of Presidents Kuchma, Putin, and Lukashenko. During the drone attack on October 4th, a warehouse with humanitarian goods, a children's sports school, and the hotel itself were damaged. The building suffered significant destruction, according to the head of the district military administration. An enemy FPV drone deliberately crashed into a civilian car. Kherson residents continue to live under constant terror. In the footage from a Russian drone, it is clearly visible how the operator attacks a civilian car driving along a road next to apartment buildings. The Russians are, as usual, training their soldiers on civilians in Kherson. In addition to constant FPV raids, they also drop explosives from drones and remotely mine the city with petal mines. A record number of shellings in the Pokrovsk direction and some improvement in the situation in the Novhorod-Siverskyi area. The occupiers are pressing the defense forces on almost all fronts. Every day, the number of their attacks along the entire line is about 200. And although the enemy's goal in these assaults is to seize at least a few meters of Ukrainian land by any means, the defense forces are trying their best to hold their positions. The day before, according to analysts from the Deep State portal, Ukrainian fighters cleared Sosnivka, Novosilivka, Sikneva, and Khoroshe. All these settlements are located close to each other. However, the enemy immediately tried to launch another assault, particularly on Sosnivka. And now about enemy losses. Here are today's figures from the General Staff. In the past 24 hours, Russian occupiers have lost 870 soldiers killed and wounded. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Russian army has decreased by 1,115. 250 troops. Our defenders also destroyed enemy equipment, eliminating 4 tanks and 18 artillery systems in the past day. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, more than 1,500 multiple rocket launcher systems have been taken out. 1,222 air defense systems, 66,863 tactical level drones, and 3,703 cruise missiles have been neutralized. To date, 427 Russian aircraft and 346 helicopters have been shot down, and at sea, 28 ships and boats as well as 1 submarine have been neutralized. A miracle did not happen. In the elections in the Czech Republic, the party of former Prime Minister and billionaire Andrej Babiš won, a protest by dissatisfied citizens. The country has already processed 100% of the ballots, and the result is as follows. Babiš's party received 34.5% of the votes, while the party of the current Prime Minister, Petr Fiala, came in second. It received 23.36%. Observers write that a change of government in the Czech Republic could move the country into the same group as Slovakia and Hungary, which would call into question support for Ukraine and many pan-European initiatives. 71-year-old billionaire Andrej Babiš, who is even being predicted as a possible prime minister, is a man with a controversial reputation and is considered a populist. The politician has been involved in scandals related to tax evasion, corruption, and fraud with EU funds. Regarding the war in Ukraine, Babiš takes an ostensibly peacekeeping stance. He advocates for reducing support for Ukrainian refugees. Mass protests with clashes have erupted in Georgia. They broke out after the local government elections. According to the Central Election Commission, representatives of the ruling party, Georgian Dream, won in all cities and municipalities. The opposition boycotted the vote. The polling stations closed at 8 p.m., but protests had already erupted several hours before that. The protesters marched to the parliament and then to the presidential palace. They demanded the overthrow of the current government and the release of political prisoners who had been arrested after last year's protests. Eventually, the demonstrators tore down fences and tried to enter the residence's courtyard.
Clashes broke out.
Special forces used tear gas and water cannons. There are injured and detained individuals. President Salome Zurabichvili considers the actions of the protesters a provocation orchestrated by the current regime to discredit the peaceful protest, which has been ongoing in Georgia for over 300 days. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Kobakidze claims that foreign intelligence services are behind the demonstration. And what do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments under this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. Two months since not being at home. Our next story is about Kyiv residents who are forced to rent housing because their home in Vidradne has been left empty after one of the most devastating air attacks on the capital on July 31st. This situation happens every time Moscow launches a massive attack on Kyiv. The latest attack on the capital did not change the statistics. In total, there are more than 50 apartment buildings in the city that need to be rebuilt. How many such buildings are there across Ukraine, and what have government officials come up with to help people return home faster? I addressed these questions to the local authorities. What did I manage to find out? Watch to find out. Every building has its windows boarded up. Life once thrived in most of these apartments. Now it's on an indefinite pause. The building will be restored, but no timeline has been given. They said it won't be quick. So how long will it take, and what should you expect if, according to the results of an instrumental inspection, your building has been diagnosed as needing major repairs? I want to go home so badly I can't even put it into words. This apartment building, like the neighboring ones, has endured many attacks just this summer alone. We go through them constantly because shaheds keep flying over. But at dawn on July 31st, an enemy projectile hit the building, pierced the roof, and destroyed several floors. 6 people died in their apartments. People call us and say, "Where are you going? You don't have a home anymore. You don't need to come back." Anna and her mother were just returning from a business trip. Their apartment survived, but it's covered in cracks. The neighboring ones burned down completely. Because the epicenter hit right in the middle of the building, and those apartments, all 4 of them, are completely destroyed. The building is currently sealed off, but the neighboring ones are sometimes without windows and have holes in their roofs. But people still live in them. The rainy season has already started, and the residents of the 5th floor are having problems. It's already leaking in. The walls in Liud Mailer's apartment, who lives on the top floor, look like this, outlets taped over with plastic and wallpaper that's constantly damp. A couple more rains and there will be no electricity. If the rain continues, it will reach the 1st floor. We can't afford to wait. Their neighbors from the building across the street are patching up their own roof themselves with advertising banners. They say they promise to restore the roof by December 30th. Whether they will or not, we don't know. Heating too. The housing office said that as long as there's no roof, we won't have heating. If there's no heating, our building is done for. Already online on the Facebook page of the head of the Slovyansky district administration, we find a table with the addresses of all the affected buildings in the district. It states here that, according to the plan, the roofs of both 5-story buildings will be repaired this fall. There are 100 such problematic roofs. We've already fixed 50, and we plan to repair another 50 by December 1st. The head of the district explains that the process of restoring apartment buildings is a lengthy bureaucracy, which they are trying to bypass during the replacement of roofs and windows, thanks to the city's reserve fund and the help of benefactors. Otherwise, just preparing the documentation usually takes months, especially when it comes to reconstruction. Previously, a specific sequence of actions was mandatory. First, the city would organize a technical inspection of the building. In order to understand exactly what was wrong with the damaged structures, which ones could be kept and which could not, they would then order project documentation for the restoration of the building. That would take several more months. And only after that would they hold a tender to select a contractor. But in August, officials simplified the process somewhat. Local self-government bodies now have the tool that allows preparatory processes which precede actual construction work to run in parallel. In other words, now all these steps can be done simultaneously to reduce bureaucracy and speed up the start of reconstruction. But this applies exclusively to dormitories and apartment buildings, the lawyer emphasizes. Overall, this resolution is more intended for the state apparatus, for officials, local authorities, and so on, so that they would do all this a little faster and implement, in fact, the very regulations they write for themselves a bit more quickly. The relevant ministry has calculated that the average cost of restoring one apartment building is 45 to 50 million hryvnias. There are at least 2,200 such buildings across Ukraine. According to the Kyiv City Military Administration, 76 of them are in Kyiv and 8 are already being rebuilt. Anna and her neighbors also dream that their building on Vidradny will be taken up for reconstruction as soon as possible. We will definitely come back here because this is my home. Currently, the project documentation is being prepared, which will make it possible to determine the scale of funding needed to restore the building. According to forecasts from Zeiton Westbud UKB, work is expected to begin at the start of next year. Restoration work will begin then. However, given the possibility of further attacks, the Slovyansky district administration cannot say for sure. However, the plan is to connect all the buildings in the district to heating before the start of the heating season, except for the entrances that are awaiting major repairs. Do not forget about those who are currently in Russian captivity. This is the call from participants of the rally taking place over the weekend in several cities across Ukraine, including the capital. Today, on one of Kyiv's avenues, the relatives of prisoners, those who have already been freed from enemy prisons, and simply concerned citizens came out with cardboard posters. Such events have been taking place across the country for the second year now. Their goal is to ensure that people do not forget that thousands of Ukrainians remain in Kremlin prisons. These are both military personnel and civilians whom the Russians captured right on the occupied territories and are holding in their prisons. Participants of the rally say that despite the prisoner exchanges, which now take place almost every month, the Russians continue to hold fighters who were captured 3.5 years ago, back in the spring or summer of 2022. This refers in particular to the defenders of Mariupol or the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. And those who take part in the rallies also believe that this is a kind of support for the prisoners. People have a very short memory. They need to be constantly reminded to remember those who are not with us yet, who are still there, who are enduring hellish hard labor. And secondly, since I was a prisoner myself, I believe that they can feel over there that we care about them. Because over there, every day, they're told, no one needs you, no one wants to bring you back, no one wants to exchange you. We never believed that. And I'm sure the guys don't believe it either.